Students, I am Nancy Sutherland. I'm eager to begin the discussion of Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is entitled Networked Consumer Behavior, Word of Mouth, Social Media, and Fashion. Chapter 12 focuses on networks and how influence travels through them. Chapter 12 objectives are as follows. What other consumers tell us about products, good and bad, is more influential than formal advertising. Opinion leaders are particularly likely to influence others' product choices. Social media changes the way companies and consumers interact. Online social networking magnifies the impact of word-of-mouth communication. New products, services, and ideas spread through a population over time. Different types of people are more or less likely to adopt them during this diffusion process. Many people and organizations play a role in the fashion system that creates and communicates symbolic meanings to consumers. Fashions follow cycles and reflect cultural dynamics. Learning Objective 1 states what other consumers tell us about products, good and bad, is more influential than formal advertising. Word-of-mouth communication matters because of the influence of others. We care what they think. Varsity Brands learned this when they conducted a study of how teenage girls gather information. They found that teenage girls spend a lot of time texting and socializing online. Because we tend to believe people when they give us product information, word-of-mouth communication is considered reliable and credible. It is especially strong when people feel that they are unfamiliar with the product category. Advertising tends to be effective at reinforcing our product beliefs, but word of mouth is important for forming product beliefs. BzzAgent recruits people to try products and talk about them with their friends and people they meet. It is an example of how marketers are trying to harness the power of word-of-mouth communication. It is related to the grassroots effort known as guerrilla marketing. For reflection, how effective do you think the word of a BzzAgent would be in influencing your product decisions and opinions? Explain. Given that BzzAgent is incentivizing its agents to try the products that are ultimately recommended, would you trust those recommendations as much as you would recommendations from someone who was not incentivized? "90% of unhappy customers will not do business with a company again. Each of these people is likely to share his grievance with at least 9 other people. A study of 40 complaint websites, such as WalmartSucks.com, found 3 basic themes reflected in the sites. These are injustice, identity, and agency. Consumer protesters frequently talked about their fruitless attempts to contact the company. Posters characterize the violator as evil rather than as incompetent. Individual website creators try to create a collective identity for those who share their anger with a company. Sometimes the negative word of mouth is untrue, Hoaxkill.com is a website devoted to tracking hoaxes and debunking such product rumors. This figure illustrates how information changes as it is transmitted. The farther from the original source, the more difference exists in the information transmitted. Sometimes this transmission effects creates misinformation about products, especially online. For reflection, which do you think is more powerful, negative or positive word of mouth? Why? Does your answer change if you consider only online word of mouth? Learning Objective 2 states opinion leaders are particularly likely to influence others' products' choices. This learning objective focuses on the role of the opinion leader in consumer decisions. An opinion leader is someone who is frequently able to influence others' attitudes and or behaviors. Opinion leaders possess the social power we talked about earlier in the text. Everyone knows people who are knowledgeable about products and whose advice others take seriously. Opinion leaders are valuable sources of information because they possess social power. They may have expertise, but one source of influence is their similarity to the person being influenced. Homophily refers to the degree which a pair of individuals is similar in terms of education, social status, and beliefs. The original framework describing opinion leadership is known as the two-step flow model of influence. It proposes that a small number of influencers disseminate information because they can modify the opinions of a large number of other people. Research has shown that this might not be the case. Instead, influentials share the information with those who are easily influenced, and then those people continue to talk among themselves, resulting in information cascades. The influence of these opinion leaders is more widespread online. Forsters call these people mass connectors, and they are responsible for about 80% of brand mentions online. People can also be influenced by a special type of opinion leader called the Market Maven. Researchers use a scale to identify market mavens. The scale includes items like, I like introducing new brands and products to my friends. Surrogate consumers or opinion leaders we usually pay for advice. Their recommendations are very influential. Some examples include personal shoppers and interior designers. Companies want to use opinion leaders to spread word-of-mouth communications about their brands, but how do they find the opinion leaders? The most common technique is simply to ask individual consumers whether they consider themselves to be opinion leaders. The problem is that just because we transmit advice about products does not mean that other people take the advice. For someone to be a true opinion leader, others must follow the advice given. Figure 11.2 provides a scale used to identify opinion leaders. The play, 6 Degrees of Separation, is based on the premise that everyone is connected to everyone else, at least indirectly. Sociometric methods trace communication patterns among members of a group. We can use this method to better understand referral behavior and to locate strengths and weaknesses in terms of how one's reputation flows through a community. Network analysis focuses on communication in social systems, considers the relationships among people in a referral network, and measures the strength among them. Tie strength refers to the nature of the bond between people. It can range from strong primary to weak secondary. Even weak ties can be influential. For reflection, do you think the characteristics of online opinion leaders differ from those who serve in the role offline? Explain. Online, it seems like everyone can be an opinion leader. It is so easy to publish our reviews of products and brands. Are these opinions as influential as those of opinion leaders you interact with online? Learning Objective 3 states social media changes the way companies and consumers interact. Social media are media based on social networks that enable participation and sharing. Because of the connectivity, ease of use, and efficiency, social media changes how brands and people interact. Travelocity leveraged social media. Travelocity's roaming gnome boosted word-of-mouth communication about the brand by appealing to its online fans to help it become more popular than the Affleck duck on Facebook. The challenge worked with much heavier brand-related word-of-mouth communication leading up to International Gnome Day. Online communities have several characteristics. These are listed in the slide and explained here. Communities thrive on communication, that is, conversation, among members. Though online communities exist virtually rather than at a physical location, the better ones supply tangible characteristics, called presence, that create the sensation of actually being in a place. Just as your offline communities are based on family, religious beliefs, social activities, hobbies, goals, place of residence, and so on, your online communities also need commonalities to create bonds among the members. This is called collective interest. The political model of most online communities is democratic, meaning ruled by the people. Virtual communities need rules that govern behavior in order to operate. For an online community to thrive, a significant portion of its members must participate. In fact, the larger an online community is, the more likely it will thrive. This is known as the network effect. Online communities benefit from crowd power. The best online communities will help consumers feel a sense of flow when they are participating in the community. Flow is an immersive experience that can occur anytime someone is lost in an activity. Threadless is a website that enables t-shirt designers to share designs and others to vote and comment. It is designed to maximize flow. For reflection, how can marketers use the power of online communities to positively influence consumer behavior? Social networks are useful because of their structure. Social networks are made up of nodes or members, and the connections between those nodes, which we call ties. The ties indicate relationships between the members. When we view an image of the nodes and ties between nodes, we are viewing a social graph like the one shown in the slide. If you use LinkedIn, you can view a graph of your LinkedIn network. When nodes connected by ties interact, a flow occurs between the nodes. Flows concur in multiple directions and across multiple media, which we call media multiplexity. For instance, you might read a tweet from a friend that includes an Instagram image. You click on the image to go to Instagram where you leave a comment. In this case, the communication was two-way and across two networks and two types of communication, verbal and visual. Social networks are typically oriented around an object, which we call social object theory. Instagram is oriented around image, for instance. Learning Objective 4 states online social networking magnifies the impact of word-of-mouth communication. Because of social networks, word-of-mouth communication definitely travels more than it would otherwise. Such was the case for DirecTV, which suggested that there were lap giraffes in one of its campaigns. Word spread online with more than 500,000 people signing up to own one of the pets, which sadly don't exist. Have you been influenced by people who write reviews online? Social shopping sites are essentially e-commerce sites that have been socialized. Table 12.1 provides examples of the types of sites and examples of those sites. Social games are influencing consumer behavior. Games become social when they have social elements, such as leaderboards and buddy lists. There are many types of social games. They can range in terms of platform, mode, visual nature of the game, and genre. Let us reflect to increase learning. Have you purchased virtual products within games? How did the social environment influence your decision? Learning Objective 5 states new products, services, and ideas spread throughout a population. Different types of people are more or less likely to adopt them. This section of the chapter focuses on how consumers choose to adopt innovations. An innovation could be anything from a social network to a fashion trend. The diffusion of innovation refers to the process whereby a new product, service, or ideal spreads through a population. An innovation is any product or service that consumers perceive to be new. Marketers may need to encourage adoption of new products. The figure shows the process of diffusion and the categories of people who adopt at various stages in the process. Innovators and early adopters are quick to adopt products. Laggers are very slow. The early majority and late adopters are in the middle. Early adopters are similar to innovators, but they are different in their degree of concern for social acceptance. We categorize innovations by the degree to which they demand adopters to change their behavior. A continuous innovation is a modification of an existing product, such as when Levi promotes a new cut of jeans. The company makes a small change to an existing product. Most product innovations are of this type. When a consumer adopts this kind of new product, she only has to make minor changes in her habits. A dynamically continuous innovation is a significant change to an existing product. A discontinuous innovation creates really big changes in the way we live. Major inventions such as the airplane, the car, the computer, and the television all changed modern lifestyles. A successful innovation, no matter how much we have to change in order to adopt it, should possess certain attributes. To the extent that the product innovation meets these 5 criteria, it will be adopted. Learning Objective 6 states many people and organizations play a role in the fashion system that creates and communicates symbolic meanings to consumers. The last section focuses on the meaning and influence of fashion. Fashion is the process of social diffusion through which some consumers adopt a new lifestyle. Although we might think of fashion as clothing, it really includes all types of cultural phenomena, including music, art, architecture, and science. We can think of fashion as a code, or a language, that helps us to decipher meaning. Unlike language, though, fashion is context dependent. Different consumers can interpret the same style differently. Fashion products are undercoded too. That means that there is no one precise meaning, but rather potentially different meanings for each person perceiving the fashion. The meanings we give products reflect the underlying cultural categories that correspond to the basic ways we characterize the world. Our culture distinguishes between different times of day, between leisure and work, and between genders. Fashion is very complex and operates on many levels. It can affect us as a society and as an individual. Psychological factors can help us to explain what motivates us to be fashionable. Economists approach fashion in terms of supply and demand. The sociological perspective focuses on a subculture's adoption of a fashion. The trickle-down theory states that there are 2 conflicting forces that drive fashion change. First, subordinate groups adopt the status symbols of the groups above them as they attempt to climb up the ladder of social mobility. Dominant styles originate with the upper classes and trickle down to those below. Meme theory explains how something becomes popular seemingly all of a sudden. A meme is an ideal or product that enters the consciousness of people over time. Memes spread among consumers in a geometric progression, just as a virus starts off small and steadily infects increasing numbers of people until it becomes an epidemic. Learning Objective 7 states fashion follows cycles and reflects cultural dynamics. Fashion trends are always changing, as evidenced by the coming and going of crazes like Cabbage Patch dolls, Beanie Babies, and Webkinz dolls. Figure 12.4 illustrates that fashions begin slowly, but if they make it, they diffuse rapidly through a market, peak, and then retreat into obscurity. Different classes of fashion have different acceptance cycles. A classic is a fashion with an extremely long acceptance cycle. A fad is a very short-lived fashion. For reflection, what is and what should be the role of fashion in our society? How important is it for people to be in style? What are the pros and cons of keeping up with the latest fashions? Chapter 12 covers these key points. Word of mouth is powerful. Opinion leaders influence us, and their influence spreads farther online. Social media changes how we interact. Innovations spread through the diffusion process. The fashion system shows how fashions diffuse. Key among them is the role of networks in ensuring the spread of influence. Word of mouth communication about products, especially from opinion leaders, may be more influential than information from marketers. Web 2.0 accelerates the speed of delivery and the power of word of mouth communication. Lastly, online communities have many characteristics that support them as a powerful source of influence on consumer behavior. Thank you for listening to the lecture of Consumer Behavior, Chapter 12, entitled Networked Consumer Behavior, Word of Mouth, Social Media, and Fashion. I am Nancy Sutherland. I am eager to engage you.